Again, it's a tough sport. It's the toughest sport to play, and it's also the toughest sport to negotiate a contract.
Yeah. Okay, and then how did other players at training camp feel about the failed agreement? You know, we heard your reaction. How did other players feel about it?
Well, you pretty much take it for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Now you have to perform.
Yeah.
Because football, again, is different from most sports where in baseball or basketball where you sign a 5-year contract, you're guaranteed 5 years. In football, if you sign a 5-year contract, that's a series of 5 one-year contracts.
Okay.
So you have to make the team every year. You have to come back healthy, and you have to make the team every year to get your second-year contract.
Huh.
So it's totally different from any other sport. So you must pretty much had to put your head down. You couldn't say anything because if you're halfway through the season and you have a 5-year contract and you're in your first year, and you're halfway into your first year, they can cut you right there, pay you for the remainder of your first year, but then the last 4 years is nothing.
Okay.
So you're gone.
Huh.
So it's really great towards the owners.
Yeah. Yeah. And did you ever have any serious injuries that led the union to getting involved with you, where they had to help you out with benefits or?
No, thank God, no. But a lot of my friends have, who have died at a very young age, and Alzheimer's and Lou Gehrig's disease, and so it's been all the what you hear now about concussion syndrome. Back then there was no real check.
Yeah.
If you got knocked out and all of a sudden you come in and say, whoa, where am I? And as soon as your head sort of cleared back then, you went back in the game. Today if you get knocked out, you're down for a week or two.
Yeah.
The kid from the Penguins, he's down for 9 months, Crosby.
Yeah.
And so back then there was no real care for the head, which was sort of ridiculous.
Yeah. And then how did you feel to be a part of the Pittsburgh Steelers winning 2 Super Bowls? How is that for you looking back at it?
It's a great accomplishment because people don't realize this day and age that prior to our first win, we had never won anything.
Yeah.
We're 40 years from the inception of the franchise to our first Super Bowl win, was 40 years. So we were, people in Pittsburgh were very, were starving for a victory, and it sort of brought along a lot of fans nationwide, because here we are, Pittsburgh, small town, blue collar, tough guys, but never won anything. So when we first got into the Super Bowl with the Vikings, the whole country was cheering for us.
Yeah.
Because here's the guys never won anything. Everybody loves the underdog.
Yeah.
So I think we built up a huge fan basis because of those first early Super Bowls. Everybody's rooting for us.
Yeah. So and then also playing in Pittsburgh, did you ever have any relations to Marvin Miller? I know he was he was head of the Steelworkers Union, and since you were part of a union, you might know him, or do you remember reading about him?
Oh, I certainly knew Marvin Miller. Then went on to baseball.
Yeah.
Commissioner of Baseball, and unions. All the unions started in Pittsburgh. Way back.
Yeah.
And at the inception, it was phenomenal because they were getting people to work for nothing. They had no power to try to get a raise money, and then all these people down in the coal mines and the steel mills, and they formed these unions, and it was brutal to get these things formed way back when. But it's like all unions, they pretty much overstayed their welcome. We've lost all the steel industry, we've lost the coal industry, we almost lost the auto industry because we can't afford to pay for all these benefits. And so, it's great in the inception, but now, it's overdone.
Yeah. And then when you decided to retire, was it emotionally hard for you to leave football after playing for so many years?
No, it wasn't. I started playing when I was in 4th grade, and I think I retired when I was 29. And that's a lot of football.
Yeah.
A lot of injuries throughout the way. Nothing crippling, but always just nagging injuries. And you knew it was your time.
Yeah.
A lot of guys I feel sorry for who would love to play today at age 60. But that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
But at age 30, I was going, I'm a spectator now. Let me get on with the rest of my life.
Yeah.
Because you never made enough money back then to say to yourself, let me squeeze out another year, and I'll pick up another $4 million.
Yeah.
No, that didn't. That was a whole payroll for more than the whole team. So you didn't make enough money to really hang around.
Okay. And then, are there any players you met in college or in the NFL that you've kept in close touch with today?
Our Steeler teams are very close. Because we stayed, back then it was different than from today football, because now there's free agency.
Yeah.
So every year you're seeing a half a dozen guys move around the league from team to team, or more than probably half a dozen per team. And back then there was no free agency, so everybody stayed with their team. And then that run of this, 69, I was there through, I retired 8 years I played, but then they had a run into the early 80s.
Yeah.
Most of those guys were there the whole time. So it was sort of, a neat atmosphere where you could build, good friendships and really get to know each other. So we're very, and when we have reunions, it's like old home week.
Yeah.
And it's a lot of fun because you've known these guys, they're all great guys.
Do you feel that helped build better team chemistry?
For sure.
Not having free agency?
I think in football, again, it's much different from any other sport.
Yeah.
Baseball, you can go out and get a pitcher, and he's not going to, he's thrown to that catcher.
Yeah.
We can go get a DH and he's hitting the ball. Or go get a center fielder, it's easy.
Yeah.
In basketball, the same way. It's a little more difficult because there's a little more teamwork. But in football, you've got 11 guys on one side, 11 guys on the other. And any of those guys screw up, it's a negative play. So you really have to see, and you see a lot of it now with the Philadelphia Eagles, who brought in all these high-priced names, and they're below 500.
Yeah.
It takes a while for all these people to get playing together and know each other, knowing their little idiosyncrasies. So it's a much more difficult thing to do in football.
Okay. And then, have you been involved with the NFL Players Union since retiring from football?
We do a lot of charity work. Not so much as far as the negotiations or what's going on behind the scenes, because that's too much involvement. I mean, it takes a long time, and you have no say in it, so there's no real reason for it. But as long as we do a lot of charity golf outings, a lot of visit hospitals, and so it's all the NFL retired players, not the current players.
And then, having already gone through the process of becoming an athlete, have you been able to guide your son Connor as he follows in your footsteps at Notre Dame?
Well, when Connor was growing up, I just wanted him to play all three sports, football, basketball, baseball. Because I'm a firm believer at a young age, you have to develop all your muscle set, number one, and all your skills, number two. And each sport feeds off the other. I feel sorry for these kids who settle in and say, I'm a basketball player, I'm a baseball player, football player in 6th grade. A lot of people in this country do. Because you're not developing your whole athletic ability.
Yeah.
And there's going to be times when you're on that football field that this basketball move that you didn't develop way back when, you're going to need. So you really have to round it through. Then at the age when he was a sophomore in high school, he said, I want to give up basketball and baseball and just concentrate on football. And I said, you're at the right time for that.
Yeah. And
so because he's a lineman and he's a wonderful pitcher, but the weightlifting for pitching and linemen are totally different.
Yeah.
Into the spectrum. And so you just have to, at that point, his thing was football, so he had to go for it, and it's turned out real well.
Yeah. And looking back in your career as a football player, what was one positive thing you learned that you took back from the game that's helped you later in life?
Teamwork. The most important thing. Because no matter where you go after the sport, there's going to be an environment where any student goes after their school. You've got to get along with people and respect people and really build up the teamwork in any job you're going to have. Because if there's nipping and biting back and forth, whatever phase you have in life, it's not going to be successful.
Yeah.
So you have to learn to get along with people.
And did that help you in the business world?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And you could see, I worked at Wall Street for 30 years, and you could see the other people around who never had, I don't mean a professional background, sometimes that's worse, because it's difficult for you to step into a lower job when you've been a superstar.
Yeah.
So if you're able to do that, then your teamwork really comes in to work. This way you can pull everybody together and build a strong team around you.
All right. All right, well, Mr. Hanratty, thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel.
And